5 years later. The storm had long passed. The hospital lights no longer flickered, and the cries of newborn babies had faded into memory. But what happened that night had not. It had simply slept. And now, two little girls were turning 5 years old, living two completely different lives, under two completely different roofs, with two completely different futures waiting for them. Rebecca Wilson woke up to sunlight spilling through silk curtains that brushed the polished hardwood floors of her bedroom. Her room was painted in soft lavender tones, shelves lined with storybooks, plush toys arranged neatly on a white velvet couch. A miniature grand piano sat in the corner, a birthday gift from her father, even though she was only 5. She stretched, yawned, and smiled. "Mommy," she called softly. Downstairs in the spacious kitchen of their Atlanta home, Dr. Cynthia Wilson was already dressed for work. Crisp white blouse, navy skirt, hair neatly pulled back, confident, composed, brilliant, and exhausted. Edward Wilson stood beside her, checking emails, calm, successful, protective. They had built a life many envied. Cynthia was one of the youngest attending physicians at St. Mary's Medical Center. Edward owned a real estate firm. And Rebecca was their miracle, their only child, their pride. But sometimes, when Cynthia looked at her daughter closely, she paused. Rebecca had fairer skin than both of them, a golden undertone that neither parent shared. Her curls were softer, her eyes a lighter brown. Cynthia had brushed it off by saying genetics were complicated. "Maybe she looks like my grandmother," she once told Edward. Edward laughed. "Or my aunt from New Orleans." And that was that. There was no suspicion and no doubt, just love. That weekend, the Wilsons flew first class to the Bahamas for Rebecca's birthday. Rebecca pressed her face against the airplane window, gasping at the clouds. "Mommy, we're above the sky," she squealed. Cynthia smiled, but her mind drifted. The resort was breathtaking. Oceanfront views, white sand, staff greeting them by name. Rebecca ran along the shore in a tiny pink swimsuit, laughing as waves chased her ankles. Edward lifted her into the air. "That's my girl." Cynthia watched them. She was happy and grateful, yet something inside her always felt slightly unfinished. That night, under soft candlelight, they sang Happy Birthday. Rebecca blew out her candles. "I wish we stay like this forever." Cynthia's smile faltered for just a second, because forever is fragile. Across town, across class lines and worlds, in a small apartment above Dante Varelli's auto repair shop, another birthday cake sat on a kitchen table. The frosting wasn't perfect, the candles leaned slightly, but the room was warm with laughter.
"Elowen, make a wish,"
Morella said, clapping her hands softly. Elowen squeezed her eyes shut. Her skin was fair, almost porcelain under the yellow kitchen light. Her hair fell in loose, dark waves around her shoulders. Her eyes were bright and observant, always noticing things others missed. She blew out the candles in one breath. Dante lifted her easily and spinning her around. "My strong girl," he said proudly. Elowen slid down from Dante's arms and ran to open her small pile of gifts: second-hand books, a sketch pad, a set of colored pencils.
She hugged the sketch pad like treasure. Later that evening, after Dante closed the garage and the dishes were washed, Morella sat on the edge of Elowen's bed. "Elowen," she said softly, brushing her daughter's hair away from her face, "has anyone ever told you who you look like?" Elowen thought for a moment. "Mrs. Harper says I don't look like Papa," she answered honestly. Morella smiled faintly. "And what do you say?" Elowen shrugged. "Maybe I'm just me." Morella kissed her forehead. "Maybe you are." Back at St. Medical Center, Dr. Cynthia Wilson walked the halls confidently. Patients respected her. Nurses admired her. But one nurse could barely hold eye contact. Carla. Every time she saw Dr. Wilson, her stomach tightened. Her hands trembled slightly. 5 years had passed since that storm, since the power flickered just a moment too long. Carla could still hear the thunder, still see the shadows shifting across bassinets, and remember checking wrist tags. But something about that night felt blurred and incomplete. She had never been certain, and that uncertainty was what haunted her. Not proof or evidence, just a whisper in her memory that wouldn't quiet. One afternoon, Cynthia walked past her at the nurse's station. "Carla, can you bring me the Harper file?" Carla froze for a split second. "Yes, doctor." Their eyes met, and Carla felt it again, that unsettling sensation, like something wasn't right, or had been misplaced, or had been switched. But she couldn't prove it. And doubt is easier to bury than truth. So she buried it. Again. Rebecca returned from vacation glowing with stories. At her private academy, Crestwood Preparatory, she showed classmates pictures of the beach. Teachers adored her confidence. Parents admired her poise. But even there, subtle comments slipped through. "She doesn't resemble you much," one mother remarked casually to Cynthia during pickup. Cynthia forced a smile. "Genetics surprise us sometimes." That night, she stood in front of her bathroom mirror, studied her reflection, then studied Rebecca's photo beside it. And for the first time, she didn't brush the thought away immediately. Meanwhile, Elowen received a certificate at her elementary school for academic excellence. Her teacher hugged her tightly. "You're going to do something extraordinary one day." Morella cried in the back row. Dante clapped proudly. But as they walked home, an elderly neighbor stopped them. "She's beautiful," the woman said, looking at Elowen carefully. "But she doesn't favor either of you." Morella laughed. Again. But this time, her laughter was thinner, because somewhere, deep down, a tiny question flickered, then disappeared. Two girls, same birthday, different lives, different futures. One sleeping in a luxury bedroom overlooking city lights, the other falling asleep to the hum of traffic outside her apartment window. Neither of them knowing that their lives had started in the same room on the same night, during the same storm. And somewhere in the quiet corner, old records sat untouched, waiting. Because truth has a way of resurfacing, no matter how deep it's buried. And 5 years may have passed, but the storm isn't done yet. And in the next episode, a simple school project will ask a question no one is ready to answer. Are you ready?